Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here. Got another Master Duel video for you. This is a deck that I've kind of had in the back of my mind to, do a video on for quite some time. Ever since they got the structure deck, really. That is, of course, going to be Blackwings. So Blackwings are actually a pretty popular deck, all things, considered, not just within Master Duel, but within, like, the grand scheme of Yu-Gi-Oh's history. Blackwings have definitely always been a bit of a fan favorite, and I definitely played my fair share of Blackwings. I know back in the day, back in Edison format, era, like 2010, I won a Win-A-Box tournament with Blackwings. That was my, I guess, kind of biggest finish I had with the deck at that time. But I never really played much Blackwings beyond then. Like, I think literally maybe 2012 was like the last time I played a Blackwing deck before playing it here again in Master Duel. So it was very interesting to come back to the archetype and see just how much has changed. That is to say, like, pretty much everything. We're running almost none of the old school Blackwing cards except for like Zephyros, the Elite, and of course everyone's favorite Black Whirlwind. This card is still, all these years later, absurdly good. So as far as like the deck and extra deck goes, if you have a lot of extra deck staple or just staples in general, right, then this is actually a pretty easy deck to build. The only real unique in archetype UR that you need that doesn't come in the structure deck is a single copy of Blackwing No Thong the Starlight, and pulling this card relatively recently is actually what has finally caused me to build this deck. I did also pull a Raid Raptor Wisetricks, which is another UR that you can definitely play. But even though I pulled it, I've actually opted not to play it here. It is a good card, don't get me wrong. It can definitely help with some plays. But I saw a build online that was utilizing the Raiders Light plus Arc Rebellion, and I thought that was really neat and smart, right? The thing that I really like about it, even though I didn't have any games where I end up needing to go for an Arc Rebellion OTK, the thing that I like it is that it gives this deck some more punch going second. Particularly if you're going second and your combo line gets disrupted, then it's not hard for this deck to just have two random level 4 dark monsters on the field. And it's like, okay, you disrupted my main combo line, well, I'll just pivot into the Arc Rebellion, negate your field, gain all this attack, and then OTK you anyway, right? Again, I didn't have a situation where I needed that, but it is really cool that you can potentially have the option to do that in the extra deck. So I included it just in case to try it, but again, I do have the Wisetricks, but at the same time, you definitely don't need it either. Like, definitely don't feel like you need it. That's the Raid Raptor link too, by the way. As far as stuff you do need for the deck, again, you will need Blackwing No Thong the Starlight, and again, this does not come in the structure deck. This is, again, the one in archetype UR craft or pull you will have to do is for this particular monster here. But everything else, again, Blackwing wise, does come in the structure deck, and we did get the Royal Full Armor Master for free when the structure deck came out. I suppose if you weren't playing during that time, you would also need to craft a single or pull a single copy of this one as well. So but as you can see, we're rocking 3 Blackwing Assault Dragon. These are URs, but they do come in the structure deck, and 3 might look excessive, but it's not at all. For our regular turn 1 combo line, we actually do summon 3 of these on turn 1. And that's one of the most powerful parts of our end board. Blackwing Assault Dragon is much like Masquerade the Blazing Dragon, the branded Despia's fusion monster that adds a 600 point tax on to every card your opponent activates or effect. This one adds a 700 point burn to every monster effect, and there is a distinction between this effect and Masquerade's effect. Masquerade's effect adds the life point loss as a cost to the card, meaning that your opponent will not be able to activate cards or effects once they are lower than the life point threshold to pay for the life points. Blackwing Assault Dragon is not like that. This is a burn, meaning even if your opponent is going to have their life points drop to 0 from activating the monster effect, Blackwing to Soul Dragon will not stop them from doing it. It'll be like, all right, effect resolves, and then you burn, and now you're dead. And the cool thing about ending on 3 of these means that every time your opponent's using a monster effect while 3 of these are out, they're taking 2,100 points of burn damage. That means they get 3 monster effects, and then if they try to activate a 4th one, they'll just lose. On top of that, this also comes in with a built-in board wipe, which can definitely be relevant as well. The typical end board for this deck will also end on the Hot Red Dragon Archfiend Abyss, which is a sort of Omni-Negate. I call it a sort of Omni-Negate because it negates a face-up card on the field, right, that your opponent controls. This can even be a normal spell or trap card as it is resolving, but it can't stop things that activate the hand, graveyard, banish, etc. If you're familiar with the Sinful Spoil Silvara, that trap card, it operates the same way as this negate on the Red Dragon Archfiend Abyss. A lot of the times, your end board will also end you on this card, Blackwing Twin Shadow, a trap card that will allow you to synchro summon the full Armor Master during your opponent's turn. So full Armor Master often also ends up being a part of your end board. This card is a true tower as being completely unaffected by other cards' effects, period. That's not monster effects, that's not activated effects, there's no condition for that. It's just literally always unaffected by other cards' effects, period. That's the effect. However, at only 3k attack and defense, this card is actually relatively easy to run over. Most decks are capable of pumping out a monster that either inherently has bigger stats or setting up a play that gives them an attack boost to run over the full Armor Master. And of course, as always, as ever with every Towers monster, Kaijus can still tribute this card to get over it as well. But it is definitely still a very valuable piece to the end board, because that combined with the negate from the Red Dragon and your 3 Blackwing Assault Dragons is certainly a lot to deal with. So while this deck might sound very, very scary from that description, it does have its fair share of weaknesses. The main thing here, honestly, is it suffers from the same thing that lots of long-form combo decks do, which is it has so much engine in the main deck that you really don't have a lot of room for a lot of disruption, right? We are playing the Bestials and a random Kaiju here, Radian. Most of the reason that we're playing these is for Small World. I also really like the 2 Bestials here, the Magnum Hut and the Drill Swarm, as not only disruption but also bodies to potentially synchro with. But Radiant, it might seem a bit weird for me to, always say like, oh, I don't like playing Kaijus in best of 1. I don't like cards that are specifically for going second. But Radiant serves, honestly, a more important function than using this as a Kaiju in this deck, is that it's our Small World bridge, right? We can bridge not only any Blackwing into any other Blackwing with Radiant, because it has nothing in common with any of our other Blackwing cards, but it can also allow us to bridge to and from our Bestials as well, because for example, right, if you opened Small World plus the Magnum Hut, you could activate Small World and reveal the Magnum Hut, but you couldn't banish Durastorm to then get a Bestial, right? It also gives us another level besides 6, the Radiant does, because a lot of the time we want to add the Sea Moon, the Poison Wind is one of our main starters. So again, if you were, say, open a random Blackwing in Small World and you wanted to go into the Sea Moon, you wouldn't be able to use a Bestial as a bridge to do that. So that's again where Radiant's level 7 comes in there. It is important, I think it is needed for that reason, because Small World is extremely good in this deck. And to be fair, if I wanted to play more Disruption, I could cut a few of the engine cards. Like, you will really only need 1 copy of each Black Feather Whirlwind and Black Whirlwind, because they're both searchable, but having multiple copies gets you a ton of advantage if your combo line goes off. It's a little bit win more. Also, the Harbaton is a decent extender, but just never came up for me, so if you're looking for flex spots for some potential disruption, you could take out, like, maybe... then again, I'm not an expert. Harbaton could definitely be used for lines I'm not aware of, but I know you could definitely drop 1 of each of these. You don't have to play 2 of each. You could also drop 1 of the Sheet Nukes, but I really like this card. It is actually Disruption. Granted, it's kind of turn 1 Disruption because you have to have a Blackwing monster on the field in order to actually use this, or Dark Synchro, rather, to use this as a quick effect, but it can still be pretty decent in that regard. But not only that, of course, not only having a lot of, like, deck space dedicated to engine, This deck is also susceptible to, like, everything. It can't really play through Maxi. It has no line if you get Maxied. Getting drolled is pretty brutal. It has no real line if you get drolled. Getting nibbed is a game ender a lot of the time, too. A lot of these very, very common and devastating hand traps, it just doesn't really have much ability to play through most of the time. So those tend to be kind of Blackwing's biggest weaknesses, and what holds it back more than anything else is, again, not being able to play as much disruption as a lot of other decks, and also being a lot more susceptible to disruption than a lot of other decks. But I still think it's a really fun, cool, and pretty good deck. Honestly, I think that, you know, playing it in, like, Master rank is, like, you know, it's a little dicey, but you can definitely still manage to get up to Master, and even Master 1 if you are a dedicated enough pilot. But I think especially for lower ranks, I can definitely see why this deck is pretty popular at lower ranks. Like, of course, not only being very accessible via the structure decks, but also the fact that it plays very well. And at lower ranks, you're not going to see as much of that kind of disruption. And even if you do, your opponent might not be utilizing it quite as well. So that gives you more opportunity to play out your combo line as a result. Okay, let's go ahead and break this list down card by card, and then we'll take a look at some duels showing off what this deck can do. I'm not going to be showing the turn 1 combo line separately, because our first game will actually demonstrate the turn 1 combo line, this deck's main combo line, played out all the way through. So let's take a look at that, but again, first let's list this out card by card. So we're playing 1 Blackwing Orochi the Squall, 3 Maxi, 1 Blackwing Shanga the Waning Moon, 1 Blackwing Harmattan the Dust, 3 Blackwing Vata the Emblem of Awakening, I believe? Oh, of Wandering. 2 Blackwing Chinook the Snow Blast. We have 1 Assault Synchron, 3 Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, 1 Blackwing Zephyros the Elite, 3 Blackwing Shamal the Sandstorm? Yeah, they all have such weird names. 3 Blackwing Sudri the Phantom Glimmer, 3 Blackwing Sea Moon the Poison Winds, 1 Bestial Magnum Hut, 1 Bestial Druiswarm, 1 Radiant the Multi-Dimensional Kaiju, 1 Pot of Prosperity, 3 Small World, 2 Black Whirlwind, 2 Black Feather Whirlwind, 2 Called by the Grave, 1 Cross-Out Designator, and then finally 1 Blackwing Twin Shadow. And that's going to do it for our main deck. For the extra deck, we're on 1 Blackwing Nuthung the Starlight. Yeah, Starlight. I was going to say that's the name, right? 2 Blackwing Boreas Storm the Wicked Wind. We have 2 Black Winged Dragon, 1 Draco Berserker of the Tenyi, 1 Hot Red Dragon Archfiend Abyss, 1 Blackwing Full Armor Master, 3 Black Winged Assault Dragon, 1 Bestial Dispater, 1 Chaos Angel, 1 Raider's Knight, and then 1 Arc Rebellion Xyz Dragon. And that's going to do it for our list. Let's see these duels now. Okay, our first opponent is going to be on Tier Limits. They're actually playing an Adventure Tier Synchro build that's like somewhat similar to what I was testing out earlier this season, which is really cool to see. But this will also be our kind of demonstration of Blackwing's turn 1 combo line. Again, not doing it separately in solo build this time because I got a game where I just pulled it off flawlessly. As in not disrupted, not like I was so skillful, you know. But anyway, all you need to do this main combo line for Blackwing is Sea Moon, the Poison Wind, plus literally any Blackwing monster to banish for its effect. Don't worry, I'll also be showing off turn 1 lines if you don't open Sea Moon in future games as well here in this video, but I'm going to banish the Vata, the Emblem, because we're just going to search it up here in a moment anyway. So you're going to start by activating the Simoon effect, banishing the Blackwing. That'll place a Black Whirlwind for your deck and give you an extra normal summon for that Simoon. That'll, of course, trigger the Black Whirlwind effect to add a Blackwing monster with less than 1600 attack. We're going to want to add Sudri the Phantom Glimmer. We're then going to normal summon that, activating its effect as Chainlink 1 and Black Whirlwind's effect as Chainlink 2. Black Whirlwind is going to add Vata, the Emblem of Wandering, which again, we were able to banish. And you want to add Shamal the Sandstorm off of the Sudri's effect. You do have to do it in that order, by the way, because the Shamal has more attack than the Sudri. So you have to add the Shamal off the Sudri and add the Vata off the Whirlwind specifically. But we can discard the Shamal, or rather send it from the hand to the graveyard, to activate the Black Feather Whirlwind from our deck. This is why I said earlier you only need to play one of each of these cards, because they are both searchable from our main combo line. Now we can special summon Vata from our hand via its own effect, activate its effect to send exactly Zephyros the Elite and Chinook the Snow Blast. Really, this could also be another level 2 Blackwing non-tuner, but setting this up in the graveyard if you don't have it in your hand already lets you potentially wheel it back to your hand later. That allows us to pull out the Black Winged Dragon from the extra deck, and then also use the Black Feather Whirlwind to bring back the Vata. Now, normally you'd pull out the one from the graveyard, but because I had another copy banished from Sea Moon earlier, I summoned the banished one to kind of get it back into rotation, right? But normally you would just grab the one from the graveyard there. Now we're going to bounce the Black Feather Whirlwind with Zephyros and reactivate it. This is because Black Feather Whirlwind is a soft once per turn, meaning that it's not... It's once per copy on the field per turn, meaning if you activate Black Feather Whirlwind's effect, then it returns to your hand and you reactivate it, it's considered a new copy and you can use the effect again later in the turn. And we will do that much later in the turn. So I'm going to use Sudri's effect, Tributing the Sea Moon, in order to summon this token, the Phantom Glimmer token. Now I'm going to sync Sudri with the Phantom Glimmer token that it made, and this is where we need our Nothung the Starlight. Again, this is the one UR that doesn't come in the, well, that and Full Armor Master don't come in the structure deck, so. Alright, here I'm going to want to use Shamal's effect to return the Sudri. It's important that you don't activate Shamal's effect up to this point, because you need to return exactly Sudri. So, you have been getting prompts to activate the Shamal's effect, but don't do it until this point. Also, you'll be getting prompts to activate Black Feather Whirlwind, but don't activate the second use of it just yet. I'll tell you when we're going to end up needing it. Now, Nothung gives us an extra normal summon, which we'll use for the Sudri, which will activate not only its effect, but also Black Whirlwind, because neither of those are once per turn. So we get to add Orochi the Squall off of Black Feather Whirlwind, and then Sudri is going to add the Twin Shadow. Again, we need to add the Orochi off of the Whirlwind because it's a Blackwing monster with less attack, and Twin Shadow is added because it mentions Black Winged Dragon. Now I get to sync the Vata with the Sudri in order to summon our other level 6 Borea Storm, the Wicked Wind. Borea Storm is going to send Shamal from the deck to the graveyard. Could also be another level 4 Blackwing monster. It doesn't have to be Shamal, but Shamal is the best one to send to the graveyard for a future setup on just follow-up turns, right? But as long as we're making the Borea Storm level 4, that's the most important thing here. Now we also get to sync especially Orochi and sync it with the Black Winged Dragon for the Hot Red Dragon Archfiend Abyss. This works because the Black Winged Dragon is a Dark Dragon Synchro non-tuner. So there we go. Now we get to sync the Borea Storm and Nothung for 10 in order to summon out the Black Winged Assault Dragon. Now we get to use our second use of Whirlwind to bring back the Borea Storm, syncing it with the Zephyros for another 10. That is once again going to be the Black Winged Assault Dragon. The third copy of Black Winged Assault Dragon we're summoning not with monsters on the field, but rather by its alternative summoning condition, right? Because it says must either be synchro summoned or special from your extra deck by banishing a tuner synchro and a Black Winged Dragon from your face up on the field or your graveyard. They don't actually have to have their levels add up to 10, by the way. As we saw, Borea Storm 6 was Black Winged 8 is 14, but yeah, the levels don't actually matter here. But the first two, you want to make sure you're synchro summoning and not summoning by its effect. The game will ask you, when you click on the extra deck and click on Black Winged Assault Dragon, it'll say Synchro Summon Black Winged Assault Dragon. That's the game asking you if you want to use the materials on the field and not its alternative summoning condition. Again, the first two we're going to summon normally, the last one is via its alt condition. And there we go, now we set the Twin Shadow. During the end phase we lose our Whirlwind and take 1,000, but that's fine. And now we have our full combo setup. We have the 3 Black Winged Assault Dragons, which will burn our opponent for 700 each for every monster effect they activate, for a grand total of 2,100 damage. The Hot Red Dragon Archfiend Abyss is a Omni Negate for any card on the field. The Chinook, by the way, is also a monster effect negate as well. And if I had weaved the Shangra into the line, which I actually could have, by not summoning back Vada with Black Feather Whirlwind and instead just special summoning the Shangra, I would actually also have a targeted destruction on the opponent's turn as well. But this isn't part of the main combo line, so I just decided to leave it out. So here's going to Foolish the Tier Cache. Here's where we see that they are on Tier Lament. And as you can see, by milling 2, they're going to take 2100 damage. By milling off this, they're going to take 2100 damage. By activating Shiren, I'm going to chain Max C to get a draw here, and they're going to take 2100 damage. And I think this opponent must have assumed that Assault Dragon worked the same way as Masquerade. And they're like, oh, well, if I can activate the effect, then that doesn't mean I'll lose, right? Well, that's going to be wrong, as they are going to activate the Kickless effect. I'm going to let it resolve. They get to add that tier cache. And then they lose! Because again, remember that the Blackwing Assault Dragon is not like Masquerade. It does not add a cost. It is actual burn. It's inflicting damage. So, inflicting damage, Blackwing Assault Dragon doesn't care if you don't have enough life points. It's going to take the life points from you one way or another. So, there it is. I wanted to show that game first because, of course, it is our turn 1 combo realized, and we get to see us beating tier limit in a very satisfying way. So, but what if you don't open Sea Moon? I'm going to show you a turn 1 combo line that does not involve that card, so let's go into that here. Okay, our next duel is going to be against Crystal Beast, making use of the new original sinful, not the original sinful spoils, the sinful spoils of Subversion Snake Eye, to cheekily put our monsters in the spell trap zone as well. So, here you can see we have a hand where we don't open Sea Moon or Black Whirlwind, but we do still have Shamal and Sudri. So I'm going to use the Shamal to set up the Black Whirlwind, normal summon the Sudri, use the effect to add VODS. Specialing VODS, I'm going to use this effect in conjunction with, once again, Zephyros and Chinook to summon the Blackwing Dragon. Black Feather Whirlwind gets to bring back VODS. Zephyros will bounce the Black Feather Whirlwind to summon itself, and then I can reactivate the Feather Whirlwind. Again, soft once return means I will be able to use that card a little bit later in our turn. I'm going to synchro for Nothung the Starlight once again, and then I'll use the Shamal effect in order to wheel the Sudri back to hand. So the Shamal, or the Nothung, if we recall, gives us an extra normal summon, so I'll be able to normal summon Sudri and then add another card off of its effect, which I'm doing right now. Get the Twin Shadow here. I'm going to use Sudri to sack off the Zephyros to give me a Phantom Glimmer token. That'll give me access to a tuner. Now I get to synchro for 6. Yet again, I'm going to go for Boreas Storm, the Wicked Wind. Going to use Boreas Storm to send a Shamal, making it level 4. As you can see, a lot of things I'm doing here are similar to stuff we did in the other combo line, just a little bit out of order, right? So there's our first Blackwing Assault Dragon. I'm going to use Black Feather Whirlwind to bring back Vata. And rather than go for the Hot Red Dragon Archery and Abyss here, I'm going to make the Bestial Dissipator instead, because I had a level 2 tuner instead of a level 1. Now I get to make the second Blackwing Assault Dragon off its alt summoning condition, setting the Twin Shadow I searched, as well as the Call By I opened, and then passing over to our opponent. So there is another 2-card combo if you don't open Sea Moon plus a Blackwing monster. If you open Sudri plus Shamal, or Sudri plus Black Feather Whirlwind, that will still work. You don't need to have Black Whirlwind every single time you open with Blackwings to make plays with them. Now, of course, Black Whirlwind is a absurdly good card. That's why we're playing an additional copy beyond the one that we need to search, because opening this card, as well as searching for a copy of it, are both always good. But, yeah, no, I mean, if you just have again, Sudri and Shamal, you can open up with this combo line here as well, ending on 2 Blackwing Assault Dragons instead of 3, and Dissipator instead of Hot Red Dragon Archery and Abyss, which is, like, arguably about the same, in some situations even better. So, the only thing we missed out on here is the 3rd copy of Blackwing Assault Dragon, 100% fine. But it's going to start with the, oh my god, Golden Rule. That card is absurdly broken. They're going to try to use the Ruby Carbuncle to summon out the stuff they place. I'm definitely going to use Chinook to go ahead and negate that. I do not want that effect to resolve at all. They'll still take the burn from trying to activate the effect. I'm going to use the Ash Blossom to negate the Rainbow Bridge here. I really want to stop them from searching as much as possible and force them to only use the cards they opened if I can. There might be a better Ash Blossom target later, but I figured like whatever they were going to add was probably going to be scary enough, so. Alright, setting a card and then using the Ultimate Rainbow effect before passing. During the end phase, I'm going to activate the Twin Shadow. I probably should have done this sooner, because I could have been placing the counters on their monsters, but I'm not, like, super duper concerned about that. I do get to use both Black Feather Whirlwind and a Shamal here. I'm going to use Shamal to wheel a Chinook back to my hand to have access to another monster effect negate if I need it. And then Whirlwind is going to bring back Nothung, which will immediately burn our opponent for 800. as well as giving me an extra normal summon if I happen to need it, but I can't imagine I will. Conclave is a little bit scary. That does represent a bounce, but I should have more than enough ammo just with what's on my board to finish the duel here. Conclave will also represent some summons from deck, but I can play through all of this, literally. They do get to summon out the Ruby Carbuncle, and because it is, I think, during the damage step is why I can't use the Chinook here. Potentially, I don't know. I wasn't able to activate it, though, against the Ruby Carbuncle, but even in spite of that and the bounce, I'm still going to lethal here, mostly thanks to the burns from my Black-Winged Soul Dragon. Again, the burn effect is just so good. It's so devastating. And yep, there we go. We muscled through all of their cards, all of their board, their additional summons, their bounce, and we were still able to end the duel fairly easily there. So I think I have one more game that I'm going to show off here. Let's take a look at that. Okay, our last duel is going to be against Mikanko. So I lost this coin flip, but they let me go first anyway. So I was like, okay, it's got to be Mikanko, right? It could be a more obscure deck like Cyber Dragon or Numeron, but it's more than likely going to be Mikanko. But not only do we have Sea Moon, but we also opened a Black Whirlwind, so this is going to be like a full combo. This is going to be like, I mean, it's really not going to be any different, honestly, than our other combo line. It's just going to have like a lot more advantage because we're getting double the searches with having double the Black Whirlwinds here. Gonna add Sudri as we always do, as well as the Vata, because that's the next card we would add anyway, so... Oh my god, so many. Look at how many searches you get. It's so disgusting. It's so good. So I'm going to add the Chinook for some disruption later. The Orochi, because we're going to need that later. And then Sudri is just going to grab the Twin Shadow. And at this point, that's like all the searching we need to do for our combo line. I already have everything. But we're going to get to have even more. Even more. Now, I'm going to pull out the Chandra from the Banish because I don't necessarily need Vata specifically. I just need a level 2 tuner. And by putting the Chandra in the graveyard, as I touched upon earlier in that first game, by doing so, you actually get to destroy a card with the quick effect during the opponent's turn as well. So, here I'm going to use the Shamal once again to wheel the Sudri back to my hand. No Thong gets to burn, and more importantly, will give me an additional normal summon. Which again, I get to get multiple searches off of multiple Black Whirlwinds. It's absolutely disgusting. At this point, it's like, yeah, I don't need any of these searches. Like, I'm just getting Harmattan and Vata because, like, again, what else am I going to get at this point? Same with the second Black Feather Whirlwind. I already have the Twin Shadow, so I'm just going to add another copy of that. And again, Black Feather Whirlwind being a soft once return means that multiple copies will trigger, meaning that I'm going to get an extra summon here. But I'm not even, it's like, I don't even really have anything to do with it at this point. I guess I could have made another level 8 Synchro if I'd been... No, I did bring back the Boreas. Okay. Although you needed to, that's right. You need to anyway. Yeah, here's the Hot Red Dragon Archfiend Abyss. Oh, I used it here for No Thong. I actually misplayed. I should have waited to use it on Borea Storm again. Because I could have... Because I have the Harmattan in hand, I could have made Draco Berserker of the Tenyi. Yeah, so if I had waited and if I had gotten back the... Because the Borea Sharp is a... Oh, but it banishes. That's right. So I actually wouldn't have been able to do that. Never mind. Because I was going to say, because it's a tuner, I could have special this non-tuner. And you're only Dark locked. I don't think I'm actually Blackwing locked. So I could still summon Draco Berserker. But I think this would have been... Oh, but this can summon from Banish as well. That's Banish or in your graveyard, so I did misplay, yeah. So I could have had a Draco Berserker instead of this No Thong, but it's not that big of a deal. We should be fine. Okay, so they're going to start with an Extrav, which I am going to use the Ash Blossom on, just so they don't plus here. If they had a call by, I would have let it resolve. Like, I wasn't super trying to fight over this Extravagance, but... They're going to preemptively use a Maxi, which I thought was interesting, because I'm only going to special once, and it's off the Twin Shadow, so... The preemptive Maxi is 100% fine with me. I'm just going to chain the Twin Shadow and not have to worry about them drawing cards. Also getting to summon the full Armor Master before they start activating effects is nice. And the Maxi will cost them 2,100 life points. I also get to use the Shamal here to wheel another Chinook back to my hand. They do have the Gamma Seal for the Kaiju in this case, because they're on Mikanko, right? Yeah, I definitely want to stop them from finding more stuff, so I'm going to use the Hot Red Dragon on the triple attack. Again, it can negate any spell or any card on the field, even if it's a normal spell card that is currently resolving. So here's the Mikanko effect for the Aberresque. That is once again going to cost them 2,100 life points. And they get to activate Aberresque here, except I have that Shangri, like I mentioned. So that is quick effect, destroying a face-up card on the field. I'm going to pop the equip spell here as it's resolving, so that way it doesn't get to resolve on my Hot Red Dragon Archery Abyss, and there we have it. Boom. Again, it's so simple. God, even when your opponent has multiple board breaker cards, like breaking this board is kind of ridiculously hard. So, I mean, again, that's the whole thing about Blackwing, right? Like, if the combo line goes off, like, you're golden. Like, it's so hard for the opponent to push through all that. But again, as I mentioned, the big weakness of this deck is that it is very susceptible to C and Droll and Nib, and there are some times where even like a single Ash or Imperm could, in theory, stop you. So it's like, you know, like for example, if you do the Simoon line and then you summon the Simoon and try to add off the Whirlwind, if they Ash that and you don't have like another Blackwing monster in your hand, like you're kind of done. Like that's it. So. You know, cool deck, but it unfortunately does have its fair share of weaknesses, but still a very cool deck. That'll do it for this video. Thank you everybody so much for watching. Let's move on now to our outro. Hey everybody, thank you so much for watching all the way to the end of the video. That means a lot to me. It's also a great way to support the channel, so thank you very much in that way as well. If you're interested in supporting the channel in other ways, like the very special patrons that I am thanking here, you can do so by checking out some of the links in the description. One of those goes to the Patreon, where you can join these fine folk and support the channel that way. I do post daily content over on Patreon, so you do get something for supporting there. And if you're interested, I also have a coaching tier option as well. Details again will be on Patreon in the link below. Also in the description linked below is my Twitch page where I stream a few times a week. You can go ahead and check that out, follow or subscribe over there if you ever want to catch me live. You'll also find my second YouTube channel if you feel like subscribing over there to watch some of the Twitch VODs as well as some additional non-Yu-Gi-Oh related content that I make over there. Again, any of those links you want to check out is all a great way of supporting. But again, even if you don't do that, just watching was also a fantastic way to support. And once again, I have to thank you so very much. But in any case, this is Hexlex. I'm going to be signing out, and I'm hoping you have a fantastic day.